7 mysterious disappearances that defy all logic. The impossible happens. Imagine waking up one morning and discovering that someone simply disappeared. They weren't kidnapped, didn't run away, didn't have an accident. They just vanished from the map as if they never existed. Sounds like science fiction, doesn't it? But reality is much more terrifying than any horror movie you've ever seen. Today we're going to explore 7 real cases of disappearances that left investigators, scientists, and even the FBI completely perplexed. Cases where all evidence points to the impossible, where logic simply cannot explain what happened. Prepare yourself, because some of these mysteries will make you question everything you think you know about reality. If you're fascinated by inexplicable mysteries like I am, hit the like button now and turn on notifications, because this channel is becoming your definitive portal to humanity's most disturbing cases. The man who vanished into thin air. We start with one of the most bizarre cases in history. In September 1880, David Lang was walking peacefully across the pasture of his farm in Tennessee, United States. His wife and children watched him from the porch, while 2 family friends approached on horseback down the road. Within seconds, under the gaze of 5 witnesses, David Lang simply disappeared. There was no flash of light, no hole in the ground, nothing. One moment he was there, the next he had vanished completely. The witnesses ran to the exact spot where he had been. The terrain was flat, with no rocks, no holes, no place where an adult man could hide. They searched for hours, then for days, then for weeks. Nothing. David Lang had simply evaporated from existence. The most frightening part? Months later, his children reported that they could hear their father's voice crying for help coming from beneath the earth at the exact spot where he disappeared. The screams grew weaker until they ceased completely. The grass in that specific circle never grew again. This case challenges everything we understand about the physical world. How does a human being simply vanish in front of multiple witnesses on flat, open terrain? No scientific explanation has ever been provided that satisfactorily explains David Lang's disappearance. The Lost Colony. If you found the previous case disturbing, prepare yourself, because now we're going to talk about a mystery involving not just one person, but 115 human beings who disappeared like smoke. It was 1587 when John White left the Roanoke colony in North Carolina to fetch supplies from England. When he returned 3 years later, in 1590, he found something that terrified him for the rest of his life. Absolutely nothing. All 115 people, men, women, children, including his own daughter and granddaughter, had disappeared completely. There were no signs of struggle, no bodies, no evidence of indigenous attack or escape. The houses were intact, but empty. The only clue was the word Croton carved on a post and CRO etched into a tree. Croton was the name of a nearby island, but when White went to investigate, he found no trace of the colonists. What makes this case even more mysterious is that modern archaeologists, using cutting-edge technology, have scoured every inch of the region. They haven't found a single bone, a single artifact, a single piece of evidence that these 115 people existed after 1587. It's as if they had been erased from reality. The Roanoke mystery has baffled historians for over 400 years. Multiple theories have been proposed: integration with local tribes, migration to other areas, mass death from disease. But none explain the complete absence of any physical evidence. How do 115 people simply vanish without leaving behind a single trace of their existence? The Lighthouse of Terror. Now we come to one of the cases that most chills paranormal investigators. December 1900, Flannan Isles, Scotland. 3 experienced lighthouse keepers, Thomas Marshall, James Duckett, and Don MacArthur, were working their shift when something inexplicable happened. When the supply ship arrived on December 26th, they found the lighthouse working perfectly, but completely empty. The last entry in the logbook was from December 15th, reporting a terrible storm, but meteorological records show there was no storm those days. Even stranger, 2 of the 3 waterproof jackets were missing. suggesting two men left together, leaving the third alone. But here's what makes this case truly haunted. Chairs were overturned as if the men had run out in panic. Food was cold on the table as if they had stopped eating mid-meal. And the spine-chilling detail, the half-ton iron gate was completely ripped from its hinges and thrown meters away. What force would be capable of ripping out a half-ton gate? The official investigation concluded that the men were taken by a giant wave. But there was a problem. The lighthouse was 75 meters above sea level on solid rock. No wave, however large, reaches that height. The scene suggested the men fled in absolute terror from something so frightening that they abandoned their post, their meal, and their safety protocols. But what could terrify three experienced seamen enough to make them venture out into deadly conditions? The family that disappeared twice. You might think that with all our modern technology, GPS, security cameras, cell phones, mysterious disappearances are a thing of the past. You're wrong. Very wrong. In October 2009, the Jamison family, Bobby, Sherilyn, and their 6-year-old daughter Madison, left home in Oklahoma to look for land to buy. They drove to a remote area in the San Juan Mountains. Security cameras filmed them putting their belongings in the truck and leaving normally. 2 weeks later, the truck was found abandoned on a dirt road. What police found inside the vehicle was disturbing. Cell phones, wallets with money untouched, the daughter's vital medications, and most bizarre, $32,000 in cash stored in the truck. There were no signs of struggle, no footprints leaving the vehicle. The family had simply evaporated. For 4 years, hundreds of volunteers, search dogs, helicopters, and drones scoured thousands of hectares. Nothing. Then, in 2013, hunters found 3 skeletons in an area that had already been searched dozens of times. The bones were too clean, too organized, as if they had been arranged. The cause of death? Undetermined. How did they get there? Absolute mystery. The Jamison case represents everything terrifying about modern disappearances. Despite having every technological advantage, despite massive search efforts, despite extensive investigation, we're no closer to understanding what happened to this family than we were on the day they vanished. The pilot who flew into nothing. If disappearances on land are already frightening, imagine vanishing completely while flying alone in the skies. This is a case of Frederick Valentich, who in 1978 starred in one of the most inexplicable aerial disappearances in history. It was a clear October night when the 20-year-old pilot took off from Melbourne bound for King Island, Australia. At 7:06 p.m., Valentich made radio contact with the control tower, reporting an unidentified aircraft flying dangerously close to his plane. "It's not a conventional aircraft," he said, visibly nervous through the radio transmission. For 17 minutes, Valentich described impossible maneuvers of mysterious aircraft. It flew at incredible speeds, stopped in midair, made movements that defied the laws of physics. His last transmission was terrifying. "That strange thing is hovering above me again. It's making a very strange metallic noise." Then absolute silence. Search and rescue mobilized ships, planes, helicopters. They scoured 1,000 square miles of Bay Strait. They found nothing. No debris, no oil, no trace of the plane or pilot. It's physically impossible for a plane to simply disappear without leaving traces. But that's exactly what happened. Aviation experts have analyzed this case for decades. Commercial aircraft have sophisticated tracking systems, leave radar signatures, create debris fields when they crash. Valentich's plane did none of these things. It simply ceased to exist. The student who entered a parallel dimension. Sometimes reality is stranger than any conspiracy theory. In February 2004, Maura, a 21-year-old nursing student, had a car accident on an isolated road in New Hampshire. A witness saw her walking away from the vehicle unharmed. 7 minutes later, when police arrived, Maura had disappeared. 7 minutes, on a road with knee-deep snow in -20 Celsius temperature, in the middle of nowhere. search dogs completely lost her trail just 100 meters from the car, as if she had simply flown away. Traffic cameras, gas stations, everything was checked. No sign of Maura. What makes this case absolutely impossible are the details. There were no footprints in snow beyond those leading to the point where the dogs lost the trail. She was wearing light clothing unsuitable for the extreme cold. There was no shelter for miles around. Even so, she disappeared without leaving a single footprint, a single clue, a single piece of evidence of where she went. 20 years later, with all modern investigative technology, the FBI still classifies this case as physically impossible. How does a person disappear in 7 minutes on a monitored road, leaving only footprints that end in nothing? The Maura Murray case has spawned documentaries, podcasts, and countless investigation attempts. But we're no closer to solving it today than we were in 2004. The boy who vanished in front of his mother. For the final case, I say perhaps the most disturbing of all, because it happened in broad daylight with dozens of witnesses and still defies all logical explanation. It was August 1958. Bobby Bizup, 10 years old, was on an excursion with other boys on a farm in Colorado. His mother, Ida Bizup, was one of the adult supervisors and kept her eyes on her son. Bobby was playing in an open field with other children when his mother looked away for exactly 30 seconds to help another child. When she looked back, Bobby was gone. 30 seconds, open field, dozens of witnesses. Impossible? Apparently not. The search was massive. More than 2,000 volunteers, Army helicopters, specialized bloodhounds. They scoured every inch within a 30-kilometer radius. Nothing. Bobby Bizup had literally evaporated from existence in front of dozens of people. The case was never solved. There were no footprints leaving the field, no signs of struggle. Absolutely nothing that explained how a 10-year-old boy could disappear in 30 seconds in a completely open and monitored space. This case haunts investigators because it represents the ultimate impossible scenario, a disappearance with maximum visibility and minimum opportunity. Yet it happened anyway. The mystery continues. 7 cases, 7 mysteries that challenge everything we know about reality. People who simply disappeared as if they had never existed, leaving behind only unanswered questions, and families destroyed by the lack of explanation. What do these cases have in common? All were extensively investigated by authorities, scientists, and experts. All have multiple witnesses. All left physical evidence pointing to the impossible, and all remain completely unexplained to this day. Could there be something beyond our understanding of reality? Dimensional portals? Quantum phenomena? Or forces we still can't understand? One thing is certain. These disappearances prove that our reality is much more mysterious and frightening than we imagine. They challenge our basic assumptions about the physical world, about the nature of existence itself, about what is and isn't possible in our universe. If this video left you intrigued, scared, or fascinated, hit the like button now and subscribe to the channel, because every week I bring the most inexplicable and disturbing mysteries of our world. Turn on notifications because you won't want to miss the next video about the most haunted cases humanity has ever recorded. And tell me in the comments, which of these cases gave you the most chills? Do you have any theory about what might have happened to these people? Let's debate together, because these mysteries are too big to stay silent. Until the next investigation into the darkest corners of reality,